This is the PI Advice Podcast.
Yeah, boy.
Alrighty then. Hey, thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Private Investigator Advice Podcast. It is much appreciated. If you guys are new here, I just stumbled upon the podcast somehow. I have a little website at PrivateInvestigatorAdviceHQ.com. Also got another domain for it. You can go to piadvice.net. Takes you to the same place, just a little bit easier to type. And yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Also, if you're new, if you're not familiar with this program, I'll just let you know that I've got videos and I've got, of course, the podcast and the blog, answer questions. There's a newsletter. You can go to the website, sign up for that. It's a newsletter that nobody ever gets right now, but that will be changing shortly. Yeah, it's just a great place to learn about the industry, get some good tips, and find out if the job's right for you. If it is right for you, if it's something you end up doing, then you'll find a lot of great tips on how to succeed in this industry. With that being said, episode number 62. And that music at the beginning was Peter, Paul, and Mary, in case you guys didn't know. I guess it's a really old song. I thought it was very fitting for the topic today of traveling as a private investigator. Before we get into that, we have some business to take care of with the Seahawks. Our Seahawks didn't win, which you guys probably knew. But it was a great game. I'm very proud of them. That game could have gone either way. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't pay the outrageous money to go watch that one. I'm glad I got to see the one where they did win. But yeah, anyways, just had to, I told you guys I was going to talk about it a little bit today on the last podcast, if you listen to that one. So yeah. Also, I haven't talked about this in a while. If you guys like the podcast, enjoy listening to it, go to iTunes and leave a review. When you leave more reviews, it helps other people find the podcast, and other people might find this podcast helpful if you indeed find it helpful. So definitely check that out. And yeah, again, I also kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, if you guys want to sign up for the email list, it's on the website. It's on the sidebar. Just scroll down a little bit. It says sign up for the PI Advice newsletter. And it'll require you to confirm your email. You'll have to go into your email and say, yep, that's me. I want to sign up for that. And go ahead. I don't spam you. I don't give it to anybody else or nothing like that. I send them out very sparingly. Sometimes, it's been a long time since I've sent one out. So let's get into this travel topic. So if you haven't noticed, it'd only be worth talking about if you had to actually travel as a private investigator. I wouldn't talk about not traveling. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. For me, one of the biggest struggles, I think, in this industry, well, when I got into the industry, one of the struggles, there's the inconsistent pay, and there's all these other little things that are kind of tough to deal with while you're doing this job. But one of them is travel. And for me, I was in Northern California. I was pretty fortunate for the most part. Even though I had a very big team to work with, a lot of investigators I was working with on the same company, I got to kind of stay I was in the Bay Area. I was in Northern California. I got to kind of stay in that area for the most part. I'd travel an hour or two, one direction or the other, but I was home that night. I would make it home. But on occasion, we got to go where the work is. And when it did slow down, I would, the company would send me down to Southern California, and I'd work down there for a week or a few days. And I was away from my family. I was away from my wife. And all that time I was a young husband in regards to I hadn't been married that long, and it was, it's tough on my wife. She didn't sign up for, this whole get married and then I don't see my husband thing. That wasn't part of the deal. Obviously I wasn't a private investigator when I first got married. And so it's kind of unnatural. I mean, unless, it's just not the norm. Most people go to work, they come home that day. There are other occupations where there's a lot of travel, but I'm not talking about those occupations. I'm talking about this one. So, yeah, anyways, and I've, over the years, excuse me, I got to, just filling in gaps or where we didn't have investigators. I'd go to Nevada. I went to Wyoming a couple times, Idaho several times, South Dakota one time. I was there for like a week. I went to Hawaii a few times to work. And it's not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, yes, Hawaii's beautiful, but it's not, for me, it wasn't fun because I wasn't enjoying it with anybody. So, I mean, that's how I looked at it. And then I went to Alaska several times. And again, another beautiful place to be. Again, it's not that much fun when you're just kind of farting around by yourself. And at least for me. Anyways, so, I've traveled my fair share. And, it's just one of those things you have to do sometimes. Not just because that's where the work is, but because the company you might work for doesn't have other investigators there. And you might have to fill in those gaps sometimes for the occasional work that happens in, Wyoming or Montana or whatever. I'm not licensed in Montana, but those are the kind of places where there's work, but there's not consistent work or not enough to keep a guy busy all the time. At least that's in my experience. Some guy in Montana is going, what? I've been working there full time for 20 years. Okay. I get it. Anyways, so what I want to talk about today was, this probably applies more to, the person thinking about getting in the industry. And this is going to be about what you can expect in there with the whole traveling as a private investigator. And for those for those in it or thinking about getting in it, either way, I have some tips to kind of help you get through it. Kind of tips to help you get out of it and get out of traveling if need be, or that might help you along the way. Anyways, I'll do the best I can here to give you some good tips on this. So one of the major things that over the years that this traveling I've done is that you can't always control where you're staying. You can't always anticipate, make a reservation for this nice hotel. And because of a few factors, if you're self-employed, a budget comes in, to play here. So if you have a certain budget a day, do you want to be spending your money? Like if a client's paying you, let's hypothetically say, you're a business owner, you're getting paid $400 a day. Do you want to spend 150 of it in a hotel, or do you want to pocket as much as you can, and pay your bills? You don't want to spend it all in a hotel room. So, you have to, sometimes you gotta, stay in the less desirable hotels to, make some money. Investigators that are working for other companies, they might be on a budget as well. The company might go, okay, you have a $65 budget, Andrew. Make it happen, so you'll be going, in LA. I don't remember things being that cheap back when I was doing that. So you might find a Motel 6 for like, $65 or $55. That was your budget. You weren't staying in somewhere nice. Because it just wasn't in the price range. And what are you going to do? You're going to spend money out of your own pocket? Probably not. You're just going to suck it up and stay in these crappy hotels. I've seen some of the worst, man, where, the bathrooms are falling apart and you go into the bathroom and some dude's underwear is on the door. It's not your underwear. They just didn't clean it. That's just, oh man. Anyways, the stories I could tell you, they're just bad. Anyways. And there's been times where, I didn't have accommodations. There was a time where I actually flew into Alaska and I could not find a hotel room. I can't even remember the reason surrounding it. I might even not have, I had a big habit of not booking hotel rooms because I didn't know where I was going to stay. I didn't know where, my hotel room was going to be in relation to, I don't know. Needless to say, I got there. I couldn't find one. I slept in my car the first night. I was pretty brutal, and I was pretty mad at myself. I was pretty mad in general. Anyways, so yeah, you're gonna deal with a variety of things, and obviously you guys know this. I mean, but yeah. Anyways, the other thing is it's not your home, and when you're traveling all the time, it's pretty depressing. Your wife's not there, your kids aren't there, and you're not tucking your kids into bed, and you're not eating your own food. It's not home. It's someplace you're staying, and that can be pretty depressing, especially when you travel a lot. I mean, if it's once every 6 months or something, then you know what, that's not a big deal. But when you're doing it like 2 weeks out of the month, then it starts to wear out on you. Your family, not seeing them, it gets pretty bad. Another thing that you can expect when you're traveling as a private investigator is there's more pressure to perform. You're not home, and you want to be making your time away from home worthwhile. And I mean that in the sense of you want to make sure you're making money. Especially when you're doing surveillance cases. Other things when you're away from home. Like if you're doing interviews and stuff that you can count on. It's not that big a deal. There's not that it's not like a pressure to make sure everything goes right. Because, there's certain expectations, but in surveillance, not so much. You don't know. You could get there and maybe you flew to Wyoming. So it took you a whole day to fly there, and you check into your hotel, and you do some pre-work on it, kind of scope it out. And the first day you get burned. That's it. You might be done. You might be on a plane back home. You've lost, maybe it was a 3-day case and now it's gone. It just sometimes there's this extra pressure to make sure everything goes right, which ends up screwing up what you're trying to do. And sometimes there's outside pressure. It's not just you messing it up for yourself. It's client requirements, like, especially in the insurance investigation industry, you must confirm that they're home, and you must do it within the 4-hour mark. If you can't 100% confirm that they're home, then you have to break off for the day. Nothing makes me more mad than not being home and making only working 4 hours and not being able to control that situation. Very upsetting sometimes, Again, it's the industry. Sometimes you got to put up with that stuff. Sometimes you might even do things that you're not paid for just to make sure you get paid in an hour day. So, like, for instance, I might work a 4-hour day. I might not be able to find them, or maybe I lost them. Well, I'd work 3 hours to make sure I found them again so I could work the other 4 hours. And I'd spend 11 hours on the case just to make 8. And I know it doesn't sound like anybody who has a regular job going, what? Work 11 hours and only get paid 8? Yep. That's what you might have to do to make sure it works, to make sure you're getting paid, make sure your time's worth it. It happens. Yeah, it's just one of those great things about this job. Another thing is travel pay. When you are employed with a company, they don't always pay you. This varies, and a lot of my I'm kind of jumping around here. Your travel pay isn't always the same as your regular pay, and so let me clarify. So, in the insurance investigation industry, which one of the things that upsets most investigators is when they travel, that time is not passed on to the client. So with surveillance cases, in most cases, it's they're only charging the client for case time. So the time you get there, the time you leave, right? The time in between. They don't charge for the time it took you to get there. So if it took you 2 hours to get to a case, they might not pay you for the first hour, which is probably going to happen. And then that second hour that you're driving to get to this assignment, you might only get paid minimum wage or something else less than your normal wage. And so you kind of feel like you're losing money. So imagine if you're spending the whole day traveling. Like sometimes I drive to Spokane. I'm driving 5 hours, if I'm working for the company that I work for. 5 hours and I might make $50, or I might drive longer than that if if it's snowy and the conditions are bad, and I might make even, I might be driving for 8 hours. And so a whole day's gone and I made like $60 or something. It's, I always have the mentality of, so is that what I'm worth? Like, is that what my time's worth? Even though I'm not on my case, but is that what my time's worth? It could be upsetting at times for people. I've been there. I still am there sometimes. You get disgruntled about it because, if even investigators been doing it 20 years, they work for a company, they're like, hey, I've been doing this 20 years. I'm worth more than minimum wage to drive from point A to point B. But that's what'll happen. So you'll feel like you're getting gypped sometimes. Food money in the same way. If you're working for a company, they might give you a per diem that is not going to pay for all your meals during the day. I've worked for companies who have paid as little as $15 for your food. So they're sending you somewhere and only giving you they're only going to pay for $15 worth of food. Again, that's one of those things that they might not be passing on to the client. And so who's going to eat it? You are. And that sucks, right? And so what do you get for $15? Well, you have to be really creative. You're going to the grocery store, buying peanut butter and jelly, making your own lunches in the hotel room. Or you're getting, basically 2 shots. You're going to McDonald's twice and your per diem's done, for the most part. So yeah, it's, and if you want more, obviously you spend more, if you want to go out to somewhere nicer, but your company's likely not going to pay for it. And in the same token, if you're a business owner, when you're away traveling, you might not be able to pass that cost on, the travel cost or the food cost that you're, and who eats it? You do. You have to eat that cost. And, in this competitive market, where people are willing to work for next to nothing and, suck it up really bad too, to make a living, it's tough. You're trying to compete with the amount that you're charging people. And, yeah, anyways, so that's some of the stuff you can expect. You will be disgruntled if you work for a company, most likely with your per diem. It's bound to happen. Another thing that'll happen is your family will have to make adjustments. If you're in an area where you have to travel a lot or just have it at all, out of town for 3 or 4 days at a time, if that, even if it's 2, you're likely, your wife's going to have to figure, okay, well, am I doing everything today? Or your husband, whoever's home, whoever's a spouse, they might, they have to make adjustments. Who's picking up the kids? Well, your spouse works, so now you got to get your, in-laws and, involved, or who's taking them to the babysitters, or it takes adjustments to the family, and your spouse has to be incredibly understanding. Your family has to be understanding about this silly job where, it's very unpredictable all the time. And, yeah, even with me, I remember, my wife, she didn't like it. She had to do everything. Especially when my kids were young, it was the diaper changes and the baby feeding and all that stuff. She feels like she's a single mom, and I'm sure she resented me probably still does, for that time where I left her, I kind of left her there by herself to do it. And, there wasn't much I could do about it. I'm just trying to make a living. So, it's just something that your wife will have to prepare for. So, anyways, so here's some tips. Here's some wonderful tips on dealing with travel. This is kind of the things that I did to, or I didn't do, but some of the stuff I didn't do, you should do. So one of the things you should do is you need to talk to your spouse. Be like, spouse, this job sucks, but I want to do it. And I might have to travel, spouse. So here's the kind of things you should expect. And, this is the kind, we need to talk about what's going to happen. And are you going to be okay with this? Are you going to divorce me after 2 months? Because, it just seems like I'm abandoning you, even though I'm just trying to make a living, because my job sucks so bad, or the situation stinks, or my boss isn't understanding. you got to talk to them about it. Get them a heads up, because I still remember my wife, for me, it was, I would be in a hotel room and I just know that she thought that I was like, I'm free, I'm partying, I'm going to the bars or something like that, to where I was being an irresponsible spouse or something like that. But no, it was never like that. It was, I'd go do my surveillance, I'd grab some food, I'd, eat it at the hotel room, take a nap, wake up, do reports, take a shower, call them, say goodnight. I mean, it was never, it wasn't party time when I was away from home. It was, this sucks. This, I want to be home with my family, and let me just get through this week or these 3 days or however long I was gone. But, when a family's not used to you traveling, you'd be surprised. Be like, they could be upset with you, Anyways, so prep them. You got to prep them. Let them know. And even after you tell them, it still might not matter. They're going to be like, they're still going to think it sucks, and they're still going to be mad at you. Or who knows? Maybe you're taking the job as a private investigator because you travel, and maybe it's just going to work out for you with no problems. Anyways, one of the things I did you could do to deal with some of the stuff is when you got these smartphones now, you make video calls with your family. And for me, it would be right before bed. I mean, I talk to the kids. The kids would get out of school or whatever. My wife and I would talk, and then they just pass the phone to the kids. How was school? Blah, blah, blah. Great. Then I probably wouldn't talk to them until the end of the night when it was their bedtime, and they'd call me and we'd video chat, and they'd go, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" And we'd, mess around on the phone, zoom in, zoom out, do whatever. You make your kids laugh, and sometimes we might say our prayers. Then they would eventually say, "Hey, Dad, give me a tour of your hotel room." So I'd walk around with my phone and be like, "Here's the bathroom, and this is the bed, and this is my TV. Here's the microwave." And they thought, it made it a little more bearable that time. And I think it's important. God, we got this technology. Let's use it, right? Let's stay connected to our kids and our wife, and let them know that we love them. And hey, I don't want to be here. I just can't wait to get home. It'll go a long way. Another thing you can do to deal with this traveling as a private investigator is prior to getting hired on, find out. Say, hey, what's the travel situation like over there? Like, how much do you got, in my area, how much are these guys traveling? Am I going to be required to travel? How much am I going to have to travel? If you can find out ahead of time, if the guy goes, "Yep, I'm hiring you, but you're never going to be home," then you might be like, "Yeah, I don't want to work for you. I still want to be a private investigator, but I don't think this is a good fit for me." And you might just pass on that. Just get it. Don't even, it might not be good for the fam. But you could also be like, just get an idea of what to expect. And have them be straight with you. Don't let them, butter you up. Find out how much it's going to be, and tell them what say, "Hey, I've got kids, and I can't do this all the time. I understand the job, but you can't have me drive, going all over the place and not coming home." Also, if you're employed with a company already and there is travel, try to share the burden. Talk to other investigators. If you're always getting called upon to travel, say, why can't Bob do some of this too? Or, try to get it split up, because if you have good coworkers and you have a good company that you're working for, they're going to try to accommodate you, especially if they like you, especially if they know that you do a good job. They don't want to make you all, disgruntled with them. They want to keep you. They want to keep you happy. They're not going to be like, "Oh, whatever you want, Andrew, I'll do whatever you want." But they're going to take it into consideration, because they know if they've had any amount of time of experience in this job, they know, and we're all just trying to get through this and, do our job right and do it good. And, we don't want to put any extra burden. Ideally, hopefully, the company work for is like that. One of the things that I did do, this is another tip for you guys, is I would not, after I had gone from one company to another company, I didn't get licensed anywhere else. They said, "Hey, Andrew, we got some work up there in Alaska. So you want to go get some licensing up there?" And I guess they license cities or something now. I don't know. I'm not quite sure because I didn't do it. That's why I don't know because I haven't done it. Alaska is a tough place to work. I've done it several times, but that's not why I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go because I didn't want to jump on a plane. I didn't want to be gone for 5 days away from home in Alaska or anywhere. I want to come home at night. That's where I am in my brain. I can't do the travel anymore. It's tough on me. And so for many reasons. But yeah, so what I did is when they said, "Hey, Andrew, you want to get licensed?" So why? I said, "No, I'm good. Let the other guys do it." "No, let those new guys do it. Let them do it. Let them, get the experience of what I've already done. I've already done that. I've already done it. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Let Joe do it. Joe would be great." And so anyway, so I let those other guys get licensed. And as soon as they get licensed in those areas, Oregon, or my particular area is Oregon, they're the ones that are going down there, spend the night away. And it's not that I don't want to share the burden, but it's not for me. I'm not trying to, drive to California or to the bottom of Oregon, which is California. To me, I'm not. And I even told the guys that I've worked with in the past, I'm like, "Dude, I'll be honest with you, man, go get that license." I go, "I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I'm not trying to screw you. I just can't do that anymore." And actually, luckily, the guys that I have been working with and, around, they're down for it. They want the money and they'll take whatever travel they get, and that's fine. More power to them. So, but that's the tip. Limit your licensing. But there's a catch to that, because when work gets slow and you're not licensed anywhere, you're just going to be no work. And so that's one of the reasons why people do get licensed in a lot of places, is so they have that opportunity to fill in gaps that are needed or pick up extra work in other areas. But so it's a gamble. It's something you need to know. I mean, if you're comfortable in the area you are, like, ideally if you're working in Florida, then you're probably okay. It's a big investigation state, a lot of work for private investigators over there. A lot of huge companies get initiated over there. I've got to believe you're going to be okay. California is probably another good state to work in. It's just a busy state. Anyway, so yeah. What else? Another trick of the trade is, at least in the insurance investigation industry, is when you're a part-time investigator, well, you can be a part-time investigator. So in a lot of cases, private investigators have the opportunity to turn down work. So, just like, investigation companies are almost not obligated to give you any work if you're part-time. Like, they're going to give their work to their full-time people first, and if they get overworked or they have more work than they know what to do with, they'll be like, "Hey, Andrew, do you want to work this case over in such and such? It's a 2-day assignment. Do you want that?" And they'll offer it. It's not, "Andrew, you're going to go work this case." It's, "Andrew, do you want to work this case?" And if it's in, if maybe I'm good, I've got my own work going on, like, no, I'm okay. I don't need to go to wherever. If I'm licensed other place, they'll be like, "No, I don't need to, it's okay. Give that to Bob. He needs work," or whatever. I have the obligation to turn it down. And that's one of the ways that, some investigators can kind of get out of that travel stuff, is, just saying, "No, I've got I don't want to work that case," or "I'm too busy," or, they have that opportunity to turn it down because they are part-time. There's no obligation, and nobody's feelings are hurt and all that kind of stuff. You can't do it too much when you're employed with a company. When you can't, you turn down that work, they'll be like, "Why do we even have you employed here? What's the point?" So that's the other part of it that you need to think about. But yeah, the main thing, guys, is, I still remember, I mean, I've talked about travel before, and how it sucks and whatnot. I know I have. In fact, I still remember, I got an email from a guy. He was getting hired on with the company, and then I think I followed up with him like, "Hey, how's the job?" And he emailed me back, it's like, "You know what? It's fine. I'm doing good, but this travel, my wife doesn't know how to deal with this. Like, she's not used to me being gone. And, when I'm staying overnight just to work. And then he had mentioned, and then even when I'm not, it's the long drives. I'm driving 2.5 hours to assignment and 2.5 hours back. It was blowing his mind. Like, nobody commutes that. After 10 years, after 10 years, you kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of, you're numb to 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours is nothing. When I first started, it was like, oh my gosh, 2.5 hour drive. How will I ever do it? Oh, it was something, it was a whole nother animal back when I first started. And now it's like, I know everything I can do to occupy my mind, to numb the driving to where it's nothing, but that comes with time. Some people like driving. I don't like it in particular, but I can get through it. I can get through a long drive to get to a case. Anyways, listen, guys, I hope that helps you. I hope it gives you a little more perspective on things. The travel part can really screw up a family. It puts a lot of stress on people. And then you kind of know a little about the financial part of it when you're working for a company. And this isn't everybody, but it could happen. I want you to know it ahead of time. It might be even questions you want to ask when you're jumping on with a company. Like, hey, what's your per diem when you travel? Am I going to travel? What's the travel pay? Like, how do you guys pay that? Are you guys pay me my straight, wage when I travel? Or are you guys paying me at some reduced wage? That might piss you off and you'd be like, forget this, or you'd be like, all right, whatever. Maybe it doesn't bother you. It is kind of the norm when you lose money on travel, at least in the insurance investigation industry. I have to always preface that. But I mean, who knows? I'm sure there's other clients out there, maybe your own clients, maybe your own business that is going to pay for that travel. But that's not always the case. And if you think about it, let's say, for instance, you're working in the state of Washington, and there's an assignment. Somebody goes, "Hey, Andrew, I want you to." It's not insurance. They say, "Andrew, I want you to go work a case in Spokane," and you go, "Okay, well, I'm going to charge you $150 a night for hotel, and I'm going to charge you the 5 hours it's going to take me to get there. And I'm going to charge you $40 a day for food." They're just going to go, you know what? I'm just going to hire a guy in Spokane. Why do I need you to do that? I'm going to save myself $1,000 a day or whatever it is. I'll just go hire that guy. And so that's where it kind of gets tricky as a business owner, to where sometimes you have to be like, okay, well, I'll charge you $65 a day, and in your budget, you got to go, okay, well, I'm going to try to fit everything in $100 or whatever. I'm going to eat that time to travel there so I can make sure I work. Travel's a big part of this job. And this has just been some of my experiences. I'm sure when I get done with this podcast, I'll be like, oh, why didn't I tell them that or whatever? But yeah, so that's basically it, guys. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment on the blog post or in the video. Just reach out to me. We can talk about it a little bit more. Maybe I'll talk about it in a future podcast. Feel free to reach out to me via the contact page, or I think there's an email in there too. But the contact's probably the best page on the website if you have a question. Lots of good questions coming in lately. I've been answering them. I'm going to have to do a podcast on them just so I can kind of share those with you. What else? I'm already, work is actually, believe it or not, slowing down for me. So when that happens, that means I start the juices get flowing and, start writing and thinking of new things to talk about. And then I actually it's kind of bad if I do too much of that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, all the stuff I have to do. And then I kind of paralyzes me. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope to hear from you guys soon. So I guess I just won't drag this out. I'm just going to end it and let you guys get on with your day. Drive safe. Make good decisions out there. Family first. Just keep working hard, you guys. So I hope you guys are all pursuing your dreams as private investigators and whatnot.
This is a PI Advice Podcast.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, thanks again for watching the video. I would highly recommend going down there and clicking that subscribe button. There's a ton of videos always coming out. Sometimes they're podcast videos, sometimes they're review videos, sometimes they're tip videos, you name it. I'm making videos. So if you would, just go ahead and click that thing, click that button. Did you click it yet? No? Is your mouse broken? Are you using one of those touch pads? Listen, I don't have all day, but I can sit here a little bit longer if you want. All right then. Awkward.